So I have already launched Visual Studio Community 2022, but to launch it, you can click on the little search, key in Visual Studio, and then you should see the 2022 app, which you can then open. Once you have it open, you may want to pin it on your taskbar, which is what I did, because it is easier to launch it that way. When you first come into Visual Studio, you're probably going to see something like this. If it asks you anything about languages, frameworks, I would just keep it on general. That way, when you create a new project, you can indicate what language and what framework you want to use. When you come in, it should have this, what would you like to do window. If you don't see this, if you go to File, New, and Project, okay, it'll take you to the place that you need to go. If you do see the What Would You Like to Do window, you're going to select Create a New Project, which is in the lower right corner. From the Create a New Project window, what we're going to look for is MVC. And then you want to make sure it says C# for the language. All platforms is fine. And what we want is the ASP.NET Core Web App Model View Controller. That is the one that we want to select. And for this very first one, we are going to call this MVC First App. And then you do want to put the solution and project in the same directory. So that little check mark should be on. And then just take note of where it's going to put your project. So by default, you should have a source directory, and inside that, you should have a repost directory. So on my computer, it's under the C drive and users, and then the name of my computer, followed by source and repos. And I pretty much let it put it in the default. And then click on Next. The framework we are using for MVC is .NET Core 3.1, and that has long-term support. Eventually, we will be adding the authentication that's built in because it works really well and saves you a ton of time. But for the first couple projects, we are not going to add it in. We're going to try to keep it simple. So authentication should say none. We do want to configure for HTTPS. That should be on. And everything else can be off. And you're going to click on Create. And I already have one of these, so I need to go back and make my name unique. You guys are not going to have to do this. I'll just put an L on apps, start the word application. And that should be unique. So at this point, it is creating the project. So in an MVC app, you will get a directory structure, and you'll also get some initial C# programs. And that is what you are looking at. So MVC stands for Model, View, and Controller. And you will see that there are folders that correspond to models, views, and controllers. If we expand out controllers, you'll see by default you get what's called a home controller. It is a C# file. It's ASP.NET Core. We also have a models controller. And right now there's just a model for errors. And then we have our views, which are the actual web pages that you see when you run the app. Now, if you expand out home, you'll notice that they aren't normal HTML pages. They are C# HTML. And so they are called razor pages because you can embed C# into your HTML using razor code. So you will be learning how to do that. You'll probably notice, if you look at views, that we have a home folder. That corresponds to our home controller. Okay, so they kind of go together. So if we look at the home controller, we have something called action methods in here. And you'll notice that we have one called index. We have another one called privacy. Okay, any action method that we have in the home controller is going to go to the razor pages that are in our home view folder. So index here corresponds to this index view. And privacy corresponds to this privacy view. Okay, these are built-in defaults called conventions. And these MVC apps are designed to actually run right out of the box. So before we do anything, we can actually run this. We could run it on IIS, which is Microsoft based, or we could choose to select MVC First App, and that would be like running it on any type of server. Okay, so either way you can run this. And you'll notice that it started to build automatically. And again, the difference between choosing the app and using IIS Express is that IIS Express is simulating a Microsoft server. So once this is done, doing all of its checks and its builds, it is going to launch in the default web browser. So whatever your default browser is, that is where you're going to see this show up. So I'm going to pause. Well, I think I might see it. No. I'm going to pause a minute while this is working, and then I will come back. All right, so I did get a message that said the build succeeded. And now I can see this little diagnostic window, and it looks like it's loading everything. For a while, it paused, and it said it was waiting for the web server to listen to port 5001, but apparently it is ready now. Okay, so it opens up when you run it, opens up in basically a offline browser. Okay, and you can see that this is basically our home view index page. Okay, and if we select the home button, it's the same thing. That's what automatically loads. And then the other page that we had in our home view folder was privacy. And that's what the privacy page looks like. But as you can see, right out of the box, this thing runs. Now, how do you stop it? Well, you can close the browser. You can also click on the stop button. Okay, that will also stop it. Now, if it takes a long time to load, I have noticed that if you use IIS Express, it may load faster. So you can try it both ways.